it's hard to get a new team over. I think it's hard to get a new act over. Like, how do you know what works and what doesn't? This is, I think, honestly, and I'm not saying that it's their fault that they caused this. I'm not saying that, but one of the worst parts about these crowdless shows is that it is all on Vince McMahon now to tell us what works and what doesn't. Normally, it's the fans that would dictate what gets over and what doesn't. That doesn't mean that everybody the fans like is going to get the big push that they want them to. They don't always listen to the fans either. But typically, it's a fan-driven business, right? It's an audience-driven business. The fans will dictate who they like, who they don't like. This is working, this is not working. And now they don't have that anymore. For the foreseeable future, they don't have that anymore. They're not getting that feedback, that instant feedback from the crowd. We are now entirely reliant on the company to make those decisions. And that is not a good thing. They're trying to give the Viking Raiders more of a personality. So we got a segment with them driving in their car, chanting their own name, in their headgear and their paint, while Ivar chowed down on a giant drumstick. Because I guess to WWE, that's what all Vikings do. I ordered Popeyes the other day from their app, which is terrible because it doesn't let you choose what pieces of chicken you want. I don't want a wing. The wings have no meat on them. I'm a leg guy. I'm a drumstick guy. Breasts are good. Breasts are good too. Nothing wrong with breasts. But the drumsticks are where it's at. And they won't let you choose in the app. Anyway, I chowed down on a nice drumstick from Popeyes the other day. Does that make me a Viking too? They have officially been McMahoned. You knew they would have them doing comedy. It was just a matter of when and not if. And look, maybe it'll work. Maybe they'll give them personality the way that Rikishi had personality and the way that Santino had personality. And Vladimir Kozlov went from being a serious guy to doing legitimately funny stuff. Tea Time with Santino. And then of course he ended up out of the company. Hopefully that won't happen to the Viking Raiders. It already happened to Eric's wife. Hopefully it won't happen to him too. But I watched this and I just sat here watching this as they chanted their name. And I just thought to myself, what a bunch of goofs. This guy's chowing down on a chicken stick. This guy's chanting his name. This is the opposite of whatever cool is supposed to be. They have been McMahoned. Apollo Crews, he qualified for Money in the Bank with a win over MVP. Tom Phillips claimed that it was the biggest win of Apollo Crews' career. Apollo Crews has been on the WWE main roster since 2016. 4 years. If beating 46-year-old MVP is the biggest win of his career, that doesn't speak very well to the career of Apollo Crews. We had multiple segments with Bobby Lashley in the gym at the PC, flipping tires. I don't know what the point of this was, other than to show us how big and strong he is. I guess we're all supposed to be impressed that he could flip tires. I never saw Bobby Lashley being much of a flippy wrestler, but here we are. He flipped one tire, and then he teased flipping an even bigger tire later on. And I want you to remember this, right? Because this was a thread throughout the show. This was not one isolated segment. They had no less than 3, maybe 4 different segments of this. I'm going to flip this tire. Then they cut away. Then they go back. Then he flips it. Then he looks over. I'm going to flip that next. I want you to keep that in mind when you think back to what I was talking about earlier. The dropping Raw ratings, under 2 million, 1.9 million, 1.8 million, sinking like a stone. Vince McMahon saying, well, we don't have Brock Lesnar on the show. Yeah, no, you don't have Brock Lesnar on the show, but you know what you do have? You have Bobby Lashley flipping a tire. I didn't see him mention that on the conference call. But they don't have Brock Lesnar. That must be why. When they came back later on, it took him a couple of tries, but he flipped what he claimed was a 450-pound tire. When he couldn't do it the first time, Byron Saxton, of all people, called it embarrassing. Byron Saxton calling someone else embarrassing. Now I've heard it all. Now I have heard it all. He flipped over the tire on his next try. Lana was happy. Jerry Lawler called it a monster truck tire. I was curious. I looked up how much a monster truck tire typically weighs, and it looks to be somewhere in that 800 to 900 pound range. That's how much a monster truck tire weighs. That's a lot of ramen noodles.